Blessings and greetings. Presenting the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, providing in-depth information on society and culture in America and abroad, bringing you truth messages of inspiration, keen insight, reputable interviews, and so much more. So now, for the truth you've been waiting for, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast, Aura, the informationalist.
Yes, peace and greetings, people. This is Aura, the informationalist from the Network of Awareness, and this is part 2 to the Narcissism series. And as I mentioned, I was going to have different people come on to the show to discuss narcissism and to give their input, their insight, and some of the education that they've gained from dealing with narcissistic people and the importance of narcissism on how it's such a, big epidemic right now, especially in the United States and in the culture here and society here in the U.S. So my guest is not a stranger to this platform. He's actually a part of it and has been a part of it for quite some time. He is the host and owner of Alpha Talk series, as well as 101 with Oxakai on the Network of Awareness. So let's welcome to the show for the Narcissism series, Brother Oxakai.
Hey, peace, family, peace. Hope everybody's having a productive day. And the Most High is keeping you, his hands around you.
Absolutely, brother. And thank you for coming on to the show. And yes, all praise to the Most High first and foremost. So, as you know, the Narcissism series is something that I wanted to focus on for educational purposes, for those that are listening. Something that's near and dear to me, just because it's something that I've experienced on multiple levels with multiple people throughout this past year. And this year is not even over yet. And it's been somewhat of an eye-opener for me in learning about narcissism and dealing with narcissistic people, whether it be through business, personal relationships, or just overall life in general and how people operate in the world, and being able to recognize these type of personality or behavioral traits that people show. So with that being said, brother, let's tackle this particular subject, narcissism. Now, I always ask my guests, like I did with Billy Izzy, what does narcissism mean to you?
Well, to me, narcissism is pretty much someone who's pretty much idolized themselves. They can't see past their self. They definitely don't have compassion for others, willingly or unwillingly, self-centered. It's a lot with the narcissism. But what I experience with people who's in narcissism, it's normally it's always about them. They don't look to go out the way for others too much unless it's something beneficial in return for them. It's like an ego. It's definitely a strong sense of ego with them. They definitely they don't care who to destroy in the path of getting what they want. They'll use anyone to no limitations on how they will use you, or they abuse anyone to get what they want from a person. A narcissistic person, even talking to these kind of people, it's always, you have to hear them talk about themselves. They glorify themselves. They idolize, self-worship themselves. That's pretty much in a roundabout way of what a narcissist is to me. I could go more in depth with it, but for the most part, that's pretty much what a narcissist is to me.
When was the first time you realized that you were experiencing a narcissist in your presence?
The first time I experienced it, or like when I was aware that what that person was, because like I experienced a couple different narcissists.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say that, because when I started realizing what narcissism is, and because, you know, I started researching it heavily, I was like, damn, some of my old friendships that no longer exist is probably because they were narcissists and I just got tired of it. And I didn't know that they were, you know, exhibiting narcissistic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's great. You know, it's great that you rephrase that, because let me be more specific. Because when was the first time you were aware of narcissistic behavior? Not the first time you experienced it.
I want to say a couple of years back. I heard of narcissism, but I never really indulged in to find out what it meant until, you know, a couple of years back. But I was aware of it because I have a few family members who's like that. And every time I would call, me and this family member are very close. And every time I would speak to this person, you know, it's like I'm telling them about my problems, and yet they're so exuberated to tell me, compare my problems to theirs, and they start going on about their experience and their problems. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I came to you with a problem, not for you to tell me what you know, been through and went through. So I would say a few years back with a family member.
And how did it first initially make you feel once you were aware of their narcissism? Were you frustrated?
Absolutely. Even now, because me and it's a close family member, the probably one I'm the closest to. But now I know what the behavior is, you know, because this person, like I said, I'll be talking to them, and it's like they'll cut me off and start going on about their own problems, you know. And it's like a few times I had to tell them, I said, you know, that's rude for you not to let a person to get off their thoughts and what they're at, like trying to come from, before you interject and cut them off, you know. And that could go a long way for friendships and having decent conversations. Nobody's going to want to deal with you in that matter because you don't know how to control yourself. It's not always about you. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to know how to take the back seat and let somebody just vent if they're trying to vent to you, or express themselves if they're trying to express themselves to you. And since then, it's like I had to use certain technique and patterns, and I love that person a lot, but I know how to deal with them accordingly now. You know what I mean? So now I know, because I have different steps of how I deal with people. And, you know, people who I love, I deal with unconditionally. People who I still love, but they got issues, they get dealt with accordingly. So I don't let that person consume so much of my time. You know, I still check on them, but I also know when it's time to hang up the phone too. Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons why I had you come on for part 2 of the narcissism series, and I knew I had to bring you on to this, is because I feel like, you know, your platform, both of your platforms, and this is how I came across you on IG. You talk about liberalism in the modern day woman. You also talk, and here in American society.
Mm-hmm.
And you also talk about how the liberal woman is a whimsical woman who is very selfish and
Mm-hmm.
very much into the female goddess worship, which Chronicle of Judah does great breakdowns on, about how we are in a society now, especially with Hollywood and media, where it's all about feminine worship, the goddess, the female principle worship. And you're seeing women, you know, become literally superheroes, you know, where you see a 110-pound woman, what's her name?
Wonder Woman?
No, not her. She's actually a tall woman, by the way, that woman. I can't remember her name right now. The Puerto Rican chick from Fast and Furious.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, now I've seen her up close and, you know, personal, like, you know, not in person, but she's tiny. She's like, I think that woman weighs 110 pounds. You know what I mean? but they make her seem like she's like 6'8" and she's knocking dudes out and all types of stuff. And I see a lot of that now more than ever with women in movies. And not to say that women can't fight, right? Because there's a lot of women that could fight out there, especially even in MMA. A lot of these women could whip my ass. Mm-hmm. But the way they're portrayed in cinema is so unrealistic. But I know that the purpose for it is for that female goddess worship that we are currently in, where it's all about women, self-empowerment, which to a certain degree is not a bad thing if portrayed correctly, because a woman does need a man, but they're making women seem like they don't need men at all.
Yeah,
And it's something you discuss a lot about the liberalism within women, especially in the United Shenanigans of America. Mm-hmm. So how do you think narcissism ties in with the feminine principle that's being glorified in the media and Hollywood and in the entire fabric of American society now?
Well, it definitely is a power. It's a power move behind the powers that be to use narcissism. And that's how they're able to get this done. Because one thing I realized with women, and I mean, there's exceptions, but most women, only two major things in their life is going to make them happy: when they become a mother and a wife. Other than that, there's nothing much more in life that's not the career job, not success. All that's not going to matter to them. But those two big moments in their life is when they become a mother and a wife. Hollywood and the powers that be use this ideology to pretty much give women the illusion that you no longer have to be underneath the man no more. You over the man now, so that's how that whole narcissistic behavior starts to come into play, because now the powers that be know that if we get these women to think that they're in control of their lives, it's all about them. They're like, men should be worshiping them, we could control the men, and they're absolutely right. Like, let me put it to you like this. How many times have you heard there be like a fellas night at a club? You hear ladies night, or like it's lady nights Thursday, but you don't hear fellas night because not too many people that don't sound attractive.
You're right. I never even thought about that, but that's right. There's always a ladies night. Always a lady. As a matter of fact, I just went to an axe throwing facility that I want to check out, where you get to learn how to throw axes, which is something I want to learn how to do just in case I need to. They had a ladies night. They was like, yeah, if you want this ladies night and blah, 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 and it's 20% off. I was like, oh, okay. And I never thought about how, damn, there's not a guy's night, right? Or male night.
Because they don't sound attractive. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. Because the power that be knows that whatever they could get the woman to do, most men will follow suit. Men, when they do go out to ladies' night, they tend to go out because they feel like it's abundance. It's going to be abundance of women there. So they know, okay, round up the guys. We're going to go out to this spot. And the person who owns the club already know, well, we're going to have a nice night tonight. And, we got a good amount of women in here and a lot of men in here. The men's going to go out, start buying drinks, try to impress a woman, buy them a drink, as well as buying drinks for themselves and their boys. It's going to be a lot of money made that night. And the powers that be figure out that statistics that if you can actually get women, to do certain things, men will follow suit behind that. I think that's how that whole narcissistic thing became, because like women, they like the chase of a man, So if you're somebody who looks very attractive, you're going to capture the room when you go out, So you don't even necessarily have to dip into your pocketbook and pay for a drink, because 9 out of 10, there's going to be a few dudes who's going to buy you a drink. That's one of the tactics I see being deployed upon the masses of citizens in the United States. The same thing goes for like when they sit up here and tell women what's beautiful, what's not beautiful. Like, who the hell put them in charge to determine what beauty is? Now beauty has to have a certain weight, have to look a certain way, have to have a certain hairstyle. You know what I mean? And that's where we at in this liberation of Western society now. And it's sickening, you know what I mean? Because I see women who's just women themselves, they're whimsical and capricious, and they're not pretty much satisfied with the Most High gave them as a body, as a soul. You know what I mean? They feel like they have to upgrade themselves if they need to. You know what I mean? Like getting surgeries done, BOLs and all that. You know what I mean? And that to me is definitely a narcissistic behavior. Because, like, I mean, all right, I can't necessarily tell a person what they should and shouldn't do, but if you're uncomfortable about yourself, why? What makes you uncomfortable about that? You know what I mean? There's a lot of short men around here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people who's short, and they had to live with that, but they don't let that, how can I put it? They don't let that define who they are. You know, they found ways around it, and they're content with it. Because there's some people who like short men, you know what I mean? So, but with a woman, it's like everything, when majority of women, it's like everything had to be according to their standards. Oh no, my lips are too small. Oh no, I'm too fat. You know what I mean? And there's people who likes that around here. You know what I mean? You never know, but yeah, I didn't mean to digress so far into that question, but
no,
yeah.
I'm glad you did, because it's leading me to my next question, where it's like, we're seeing a lot of narcissistic women, like basically, according to studies, narcissistic men was always a thing. Like, it was always a lot of narcissistic men throughout the centuries. Where women was not, there weren't many narcissistic women. But in the last 10 years, because of social media, because of the way society is moving, because of Hollywood, because of predictive programming and many other factors, the rise in narcissistic women is staggering now, according to clinical psychologists that are researching this, that they're seeing a rise in narcissistic women. And one of the things that narcissistic women have over men to a certain degree is sex and exposing their body. Men can do it too, right? If there's an attractive man, he can show his chest. He can even show his penis if he wants, or whatever the case is. But when it comes to a woman, they have a lot more assets in that department, and their sexuality can be used at a higher degree than what a man can use the sexuality. And the equivalence to that when it comes to the male principle and the female principle is that with the female, she can use her body. The man can use his money. So the man uses his money more often to exude or to reel the woman in, right? To lure them in, as the narcissist reels you in to destroy you. But with a woman, she's using her body as that same weapon of choice to lure you in. And it's something that's a big problem. And I can't help but to think that you know that young girl that was on the Dr. Phil show, and she's like, catch me outside. And she wound up becoming a rapper. I think her name is Bads or Babdy or whatever the hell her name is. Well, that young lady, who's now, I believe, 21 or 20 or 22, somewhere in that vicinity. And I was seeing a documentary on Rapstar where this young girl that was a nobody got famous on Dr. Phil for being a disrespectful teenager to her mother and just being completely ratchet, wound up getting a record deal and selling records or whatever. But she actually made more money on her OnlyFans page. And she made a record. I think she made a record amount of money. It was something like $27 million. It was an obscene number. I can't remember what it was, but it was high. And it was like in a course of several years, that girl made a shitload of money on OnlyFans. And I feel like with social media and girls like that really don't have any depth to them. And if they do, they're not really exhibiting it because everything is very superficial with them. And you have a lot of women now on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, pretty much everywhere where there's a camera available to even, what's the other one? I can't even remember the name of it. Snapchat. I mean, there's so many of them where these females, if it comes to twerking, it comes to shaking their breasts, it's becoming the norm to get attention. And just the behavior itself is very narcissistic. What do you think was the shift in having females become so sexualized?
When it comes to a woman, and you're in a relationship with a woman in today's society, her first love is always going to be the phone. The phone is nothing more. It's like a scrying mirror. The way, and I think we spoke about this once before, but the way the woman looks into a camera, it's almost like she's lusting for the phone. You know what I mean? She's in love with her phone. And all social media did is gave options. We're in a age of options now, where a woman can log on to her social media and see her first crush, high school crush, or the guy that took her virginity away. Or now she could go follow the guy that she should never let get away, the first person she, fell in love with or had a good relationship with, but they ended it out on bad terms. So now there's unlimited access to a woman, and that also self-empowers the ego now, because now she's no longer out of contact with these people, these various men that she had throughout her life. You know what I mean? So that also could boost the ego to where it's like, and then especially if these guys are following her and she posts a picture and they're liking it, you know what I mean? It's definitely going to give her a sense of, a boost in herself. Like, oh, look, my first high school boyfriend, he just liked my picture. I still got it going on. You know what I mean? Like, so that's instantly is going to, infiltrate narcissistic behavior to a person, because now they're like, oh, I still look good. My old boyfriends want to still slide in my DMs. You know what I mean? And all social media it just gave access to that now. See, when we was in school, people will never know about, the rotary phone, and if you want to talk to somebody, you have to call them at a certain time because they might be out at the park. We didn't have no two-way or no phone or no text messages like that back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, they just started coming out with cell phones, but I remember I had, like, when I was in 10th grade, 9th grade, I had it's called a track phone. We had to buy minutes. You know what I mean? Like, on the weekends, you get free calls and stuff. But we didn't have all this technology now. And now it's like the world's uploaded and online full access. It kind of reminded me of the movie of Terminator, with Skynet. Everybody's uploaded to Skynet now, you know what I mean? And it's the life for people now. And that's what the powers that be realize. That's why they pushing so hard for the metaverse to come out now. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what we're living in this day and age, with being online 24/7. And people loves that access, especially women love the access. They could talk to their, a man across who probably moved several states over, and she can still see what he looks like. She can see what he's doing throughout his days by him sharing his storyline, or, being on Snapchat or whatever they're on. You know what I mean? And that's the world we live in. So all social media did is enhance it. It became a drug. It's a new drug. You know what I mean? People love that feeling. It sends dopamine to a woman when she knows she's getting a certain amount of likes in a matter of an hour of posting one picture. You know what I mean? So that it's a new drug. It's a new drug, and it's very addictive too. And that's why I feel like social media, and I always say, if your woman has social media and she don't give you the password to her social media accounts, that's not your woman. She got a lot she's hiding. And I mean, not that you should go back and forth with her, but you should really contemplate about what her status is going to be, because she shouldn't be wifey. She might have to just be a concubine. You know what I mean? But that's my opinionated thought on that. But yeah, I can see how social media definitely turned the average woman into a full-time narcissist now. And this was part of all the agenda that the elite set forth for liberation a long time ago.
there was a man that I was watching. He was an older gentleman in his late 50s. And he was talking about how when he was in a narcissistic relationship with a woman, that she literally had 3 cell phones. She had 3 separate lines. And he knew, like he said they would watch like movies or documentaries together, and that she would act like she's there, but she would be on her 3 different phones and just going through the motions with him. And when you mentioned about the cell phone, I feel like, and it's not just women, right? Because there's narcissistic men. But for the listeners, I want them to realize that if you're in a relationship with somebody, whether they have 1 phone, 2 phones, or 3 phones or whatever, if they're behaving in a manner where they're very secretive with that phone, and it's something you told to me that I've experienced too, where if somebody, let's say, gets a message, or let's say gets a phone call that they don't pick up, and then they go to respond to that message, and you're next to them, they kind of tilt their phone so you don't see what they're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for the people listening, you have to be aware of this type of behavior, because when you start to see these signs, you need to pack your stuff up and go. Like, you need to get out of that, because for me, I'm the type of person that I'm not secretive with my phone. And I guess it's because I don't have anything to hide. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, for me, if somebody goes, let me see your phone, I'm like, oh, all right. Like, what's the big deal? Like, I wouldn't be like, what, you don't trust me? Because I would be like, hey, now if they're doing it all the time, then I'd be like, hey, we got a problem here. But if somebody's like, hey, I just want to see your phone, I'll let them know, hey, I don't got anything to hide. So here it is, because I'm the type of person that, why get into a situation where you have to constantly be lying? I feel like that's torture to the soul. That's why I feel like a narcissist is not really living a life. They're living a lie that they think is a life. And it's a lie filled with a lot of misery. They just don't realize it because they have no empathy. And it's all about gratification and personal satisfaction, no matter how temporary it may be. And wherever they can get their source of supply, which those are technical terms in the psychological clinical community, where they call it that they're looking for a supply of energy. And it's something that I've dealt with narcissists, where, they want to show me attention because they want my supply of energy. And usually they'll tell me, they'll be like, hey, I'm contacting you because I need some positive energy. I want to have a positive conversation. I want to have this positive. But in reality, even though you may be that beacon of light, that beacon of positive energy for them to turn to, it's not for the purposes of truly embracing it and loving it and appreciate it. It's more to suck that supply of energy for their own personal gain.
Absolutely.
It's like your cattle for the slaughter to feed off of.
If I can inject real quick, I completely agree with that. And that's all the reason why you found more people who's get in a quick relationship and end so quickly. And I always wonder, well, how come you guys didn't try to work it out? Or why didn't you try to work it out with that person? And they can never give you a straight answer. It's so easy for a narcissist to get in an infatuation stage, started going for a little bit and destroy it in a matter of 6 months in a year. Because like to them, it's like, it's so much easier to destroy it, move on to the next person. It's not worth keeping. And that's why these type of people, I feel you will never so much find them in a steady relationship. It's easy to get in a relationship, hard as hell to keep one though. For a narcissist, that's too much work for them, because it's not going to be all about them. Especially if the person is not like somebody you can control or mold, they're not going to keep that person around for long.
You're absolutely right, because in a relationship that I was in, I had the person that told me that they were going to help me out with something in regards to, I think it was social media, as far as marketing or something that they knew about, that they had knowledge in. And, I never received that assistance ever. Like, they said they were going to do it. And then I would remind them, hey, can you? And it's always like I got put on the back burner. And I just feel like when it comes to a narcissist, they have to be in control of the whole entire relationship from the beginning to the end in all aspects. And I didn't realize that until I was deep in it, to where I was like, oh, wow, like this person is really trying to control every facet of this relationship. And the reason why I think some of them are successful as they are with people like myself or like you is because we're just trying to be genuine, right? We're just trying to really have something meaningful, something that we in our minds are ready to contribute to responsibly as an adult, whether it be a male or female.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these people that get hurt in these relationships have that approach. They really just have empathy. They just want to do right by the person and get to know them and just live happy. Just be content with, where the relationship is and where it's going. And they do what they need to do to make it a fulfilling one. Right?
Absolutely.
But for some reason, the narcissist can't gravitate to that. It's almost like when things are too good, they got to find something bad in order to gain control so that they can create another narrative to feed. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from. That makes me think about a situation I recently went through with, somebody I was talking to and dating. We went out to eat, and this person, everything was going good. The conversation was going good. And she happened to make a comment, "Oh, you got dirty fingernails." I'm like, "Yeah, I just climbed out of a truck." Like, what do you expect? And it made me think for a second. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how come every time I'm around you, you always find something bad to say about me, as far as my physical appearance or something, or your beard's too long, or you got dirt underneath your finger. But it makes me think that's how narcissists operate. And I think I heard you and Billy discussing this. They have to tear you down in order to feel like they're gaining control of the situation again. Because I felt like this person was like, subconsciously trying to tear me down in a way.
No, but you're absolutely right. They criticize you they can criticize you in a way where you don't even realize that you're being criticized. You did. You felt like you were being criticized, but a lot of times they could do it in a way where you're not even completely aware of it. It's like it passes the frontal lobe, the conscious mind, and completely circumvents that and goes into the subliminal, into the subconscious. It's happened to me where sometimes I've been criticized and I wasn't even realize that I was being criticized until after the fact, until I had to do a playback reel and be like, oh shit, I was being criticized at that time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did at that moment. And I got to thinking, because I get into a three-dimensional thought. So I start adding, I said, every time I'm around this person, they always criticize me about something. It's always something. It's always a criticizing moment and never a compliment given so much from that person. You know what I mean? So, and that's when I start to realize what kind of person I was dealing with too.
Do you think that, and this is something from my perspective and what I've been researching with a narcissist, is that they're very much attracted to successful people. They're very much attracted to men or women that are confident.
Yes.
And, the crazy part is that the very thing that they are attracted to, that they want to be a part of, is the very thing that makes them feel insecure once they are in it.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Because I feel like with a narcissist, like I experienced, that was what attracted them to me. The fact that I was doing different things and I was good at it and I was successful at it and my confidence exude heavily in the things that I'm passionate about. But then as I was in the relationship, it seemed like they was almost in competition with me to say that they are desirable and favorable for the same type of attention that I'm getting, that they qualify for that type of attention too. But in my situation, I was like, this is not a competition. I'm not trying to compete in a relationship. And I see that a lot in marriages. I see a lot of marriages in modern day society where it's competition. Who makes the more money? Who dresses better? Who cooks better? It's like, are you guys married? Or are you in a race? Are you in are you in the Olympics? Is this an Olympic trial? You know what I mean? And it's very sad because it's that very competition that leads marriages to divorce so early, where they don't last past 5 years. The divorce rate between the 1 to 5 year period is pretty high these days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I kind of had to piggyback on what you just said because going back to the situation I was explaining about the woman I was seeing, she made a comment to me like, I feel like you're a very confident guy. You could probably get any woman you want. I said, that's not true, but I know how to create a moment if I need to. And at the same time, she knew what I was going out for as my career. Like I was seeking out to become a truck driver. I also had side things I'm doing, like my podcast, my music. And, she felt like I felt like she wanted to be a part of that for a little bit. But once she saw I got serious about the trucking, she took it as a threat because I felt like that's when she started getting real threatened. And I saw a big change in our behavior and how she was acting towards me after that. And even then, like she never once congratulated me on, getting my CDLs and starting my new career. I never once heard that come out of her mouth. I even sent her pictures of my truck. She never said nothing about it. So to me, that pretty much proved my point that she was, kind of threatened by that. The only thing she said to me when I started training was, "Oh, I got to get back in school. I'm going back to school by next fall because I got to get." I'm thinking to myself like, well, yeah, if you want to, you should figure out what you want to do. You never should be, pretty much settle for anything you're not happy for right now. You should always try to seek out the better version of you and keep going. Don't get comfortable, And to me, I'm saying this as somebody who I care about, as to give them that mental support that, I'm here for you if you want to try to do something, and I think you should go for it. But as you were just saying, now it's more of a competition now, and that's what the whole liberation has did. It set forth to woman, a notion to woman, you don't need a man to feel contempt or complete. You could do all that without the man now. And that's why I feel like ever since liberation been introduced to the Western citizens, it's like everybody has this, it's more of a compete now. We're supposed to be complimenting our significant other, not competing with them in a race. And that's how it's been. Who makes them, like you said, who makes the most money? Who's going to be the first to get that raise and new promotion? Who can cook better? Who do the kids love more, me or you? You know what I mean? And that's exactly what's destroying a lot of marriages now and relationships, because nobody know how to compliment each other no more, but better yet, how to compete with each other.
Yeah, I agree. 110% on that, man. It's quite sad because there's probably a lot of people that are missing out on something really great happening for their relationship due to the fact that one of them, whether it be the man or the woman in the relationship, is a narcissist. And the sad part is that a lot of times I feel like the narcissist is getting a very valuable person in their life, but because they lack the empathy to nourish and cultivate and be able to cherish a relationship that they're in, they wind up losing out on that opportunity, but they really don't care, because at the end of the day, it's all about satisfying their superficial desire. And they're going to get, something that Dr. Ramadi said, who's an expert clinical psychologist in this, Dr. Ramadi Darsula. I hope I'm not pronouncing her last name. My apologies, Dr. Ramadi, if I'm doing that. But something she said where she says that the narcissist is so focused on their superficial desires that the moment that there's any type of responsibility on that end that they have to contribute to, they're not going to contribute to that relationship, but they're going to have other supplies on the back end that they can go to besides you. So one of the things she was saying that if you break up with a narcissist, then 9 times out of 10, they either have somebody waiting in the wings or they already had somebody because they were cheating on you, because she says a lot of narcissists will cheat. That's just their MO. They're going to cheat on you and they're not going to think twice about it. They're going to have sex with somebody else like it's nothing. And they'll have sex with multiple partners.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing she mentioned is that the fact that they do that, if you do break up with them, she says they're going to move on fairly quickly. It's not something they're going to be like, oh, he broke up with me or she broke up with me. What do I do? They're just going to move on to the next one like it's nothing.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't have somebody waiting in the wings, they'll find somebody in less than a week. That's what she said. She said in less than a week, they'll have somebody else that they're entangled with. That is now their new form of supply. And like I said before, supply in technical terms means somebody that's going to give you attention so you can gain that energy and take that energy from them.
Mm-hmm.
Let me... Go ahead, brother. I want to ask you another question, but go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And a lot of narcissists do that because, for one, it keeps them from getting strong feelings for one person. If you got 3 or 4 different people and you favor one of them, that don't work out, you already know. Well, I already been talking to a couple other people, and I could focus more on them now. It keeps them from physically having strong emotions and attachment to one person. That's why they do that. And they'll see what they'll do. They'll call that dating. You know what I mean? But that's one of the main ways of how they don't get so attached to a person. That's one thing I did notice about that. I heard I had a woman friend, and she told me, when I date multiple people. You know what I mean? And I noticed anytime one of them people didn't work out, she at a drop of a dime had somebody else. You know what I mean? Consistently going out on dates, left to right. I remember one time she went out with a dude she didn't even like, but he took her to the Cheesecake Factory. So it was a free meal. But they're, like you said, supply. They know who to get their attention from, and they know to keep their options open. That's why they like to say, I'm dating. I have options. A lot of people who do that, like I said, they do that to me, it's with the wrong intentions, because they're telling you that, I'm looking for the right person, but you can't really be looking for the right person if you got 3 or 4 different people. That's a lot of people you got to get to know. You know what I mean? I'm going to say, from my experience of dealing with women is always going to seek out what's the better option for them. It could be with men too, but I speak from a man's perspective. But I know it's with a lot of women, they're going to seek out whatever is the best option for them. So the guy who she might have been talking to might not fully got himself together, but he got himself intellectually together, spiritually together. You know what I mean? And she'll turn him down for the guy who he might act like an asshole, but he got his own car, his own house. She's gonna go run with that because that's a better guy with stability in her eyes. But yeah, I didn't mean to digress too much on that.
No, you made a great point there. You made an absolutely great point. And see, what I was going to segue into is the spiritual aspect of it all. Because when it comes to these clinical psychologists that I've been getting, counseling and I've been researching their work, their books, they're approaching it professionally, right? They're approaching it as a clinical psychologist with statistical facts and research and experiences that they've had with treating people with this behavior or people that are in this relationship dynamic with a narcissist. But I don't think, not that they're not capable of it, but because of their profession, I think it's just something that they don't talk about. But I want to talk about it with you because I know you would have great input on this, is that I think there's a spiritual element to this that is not discussed enough. And it's something that I was discussing with Billy offline, where it's like, and I'm going to give a great, I'm going to preface this very well, as much as I possibly can. As you know, right, you're on my network. I highly respect your content and what you have to offer, because I think that when it comes to the worldly world of things and this matrix, your spiritual eyes can see it for what it is. And I've learned a lot from you in regards to that. And as you know, when it comes to the draconian agenda, when it comes to these so-called reptilians, the fallen angels, the jinns, whatever you want to call them, demons, these beings that are not really human, that walk amongst us. The biggest thing with these people that are pedophiles is that they have no empathy. And that's why they can rape a child or watch a child be raped and literally enjoy the process and not have any remorse for the actions or for what they're seeing. It doesn't bother them in the slightest bit, right? And there's countless stories of this when it comes to the elites and people in politics and in media and sports, and all these people, that stuff that they do behind the scenes is atrocious. Now, with that being said, when it comes to the narcissist, what's the main thing that the narcissist lacks? Is empathy, right? So is it safe to say that to a certain degree, that when it comes to these narcissistic people, and I'm not talking about the ones with the personality disorder, I'm just talking about the ones with the narcissistic traits, is it safe to say that there may be some demonic presence within them? Is it possible that their spirit is being led by a demon because they're exhibiting the same characteristics of somebody that's cold-blooded, that's like a reptile, that is not really human, that doesn't have empathy? Do you believe that there is some type of coordination when it comes to demonic possession, or somebody who has demons on them and narcissism? Because I've even had people tell me recently that, one particular individual that was slandering me, and the way that this individual was doing it, they was like, yo, this brother's got like demons on him. I feel like he got demons on him, because to be talking like that, that's coming from a very dark place. And right. I thought about it. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'll say this. This is my opinionated thought on it. I think it's different levels of narcissism, narcissists too. Cause like, I have seen narcissists who did have empathy, you know what I mean? It'd be for a short period of time, because they'd be overwritten by other shit, but there are some people who are conscious, but you got some who've been doing it so long to where they don't even feel it no more. You know what I mean? I have compassion for anybody else. I definitely think it is a part of demon possession. Because like we live in a physical world where the spirits are amongst us. We can't see it in different frequencies and different spectrums of the world. You know what I mean? And we could be heavily influenced by them. So I do believe, like, when a narcissist, like I said in the beginning, I think it's a certain level to it. I think the more a person indulges on it and doesn't catch it, because you got some people who's narcissists don't even know that they are narcissists. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
and
true.
Like, they'll say, and when they hear the word, they'll deny it. You know what I mean? They're delusional about it. So I definitely think it's different levels to it, and I think it could be pretty much a demon possession, because depending on how that person really is, you know what I mean? Like the more that person indulge in it, the more they start worshiping and glorify themselves, the more stronger the presence get of the demon, I think. So, or the entity that's, possessing them. And I feel like that definitely is, definitely a form of demonic possession. It's the same thing for those who said, who's a schizophrenic, you know what I mean? I feel like, that's definitely a form of demonic, being possessed. You know what I mean? So, I think, like, when a person, I think when a narcissist, like I said in the beginning, I think it's a certain level to it. You got some people who's narcissists don't even know that they are narcissists. You know what I mean? And they don't even feel it no more. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's just a lot of things in this world where doctors, they don't want to touch that certain aspect on it as far as the spirituality, because like a lot of these doctors, it's so to them it's science, where it's like, to me it's like science could be a religion too if you allow it to. You know what I mean? So it all depends on how you look at it. You know what I mean? It all depends on how you look at it, because like, and that's why I respect people who's into science, and I'm fascinated with certain things too about science. But I also know, me being a man of the Bible first, I also know, science that also brings us our technology, which is certain forms of witchcraft too. You know what I mean? Like, now we can go on the web. When you want to go look up something on the web, we got information of the web in our phones, right? You have to hit www dot whatever, you know what I mean? And if you want to get more in depth with it, that's pretty much casting a spell to seek more information on something. You know what I mean? So it's all how you look at life and how you perceive it. You know what I mean? And I don't want to digress more into it because I don't want to fall too far from the topic. But we'll have that conversation sooner or later on another show. But science itself, and a lot of doctors, like I said, they don't want to indulge in too much into spirituality, because they know it could be a possibility. It might be true. A lot of people don't want to lose their job, their licenses. They don't want to lose their practice, what they're doing. So I can see why they try to stay far away from that. But I do, to answer your question, I do believe, yeah, you're right on with that.
Well, what do you think is the best way for people that are listening? Because this is, this is why I'm making this a series, because I just feel like this is an epidemic, man. Just like the Gaga-19 epidemic, or so-called virus is a pandemic. I feel like this is an epidemic in society, and not just here in America, but I'm pretty sure it's an epidemic around the world. But I think American society is more structured to support this type of behavior and congratulate and reward this type of behavior. Because something Dr. Ramadi said as well is that in the society that we live here in America, the narcissist is going to be the most successful person, hands down, every single time, no matter what. That's what she said.
Absolutely.
And I agree with her 110%, because it's the narcissist, when it comes to corporate America, that's going to thrive. Why? Because they lack empathy. And because they lack empathy, because they can step on somebody's neck and not feel anything, and pretty much lie and cheat their way to the top, it's going to be heavily rewarded, because it's that do what thou wilt principle with it, which is the Luciferian principle, mixed in with that principle of competition and I am going to outdo you and stuff like that, where the narcissist thrives in that type of environment because they are so superficial that as they rise up the corporate ladder, they don't care who they have to step on to do it. As long as they get all of the accolades and recognition, that's everything to them, because they are so heavily immersed on how other people perceive their image. That's right. One of the things with the narcissists is they're very big on how other people are going to perceive them. That's why in my particular situation, the narcissist that I dealt with, they are very concerned on how I'm describing them on my platform, but I'm not trying to describe them specifically all the time. And I'm not even mentioning these people's names like that. But it's like, you know, I'm just trying to educate people on something that now I think is important to me, like it's never been before, to be aware of. So that way I don't fall into the same pitfalls like I have recently and in the past. But they are so concerned with how other people view them, the opinions of others and the image of that it's kind of like, you know, in American society, it's all about image now. That's why social media is the big fakester of image of somebody, because somebody's going to show you their representative all day on social media and not truly be genuine. That's why I feel like the social media is the narcissistic playground.
Absolutely. It is their playground, because they can go and, for one, they could create a false image of who they are on there. That's why I agree with you just said, because to them, image is everything and how everyone's perceives them. You know what I mean? Especially their friends. You know, they're quick. I feel like a narcissist would ditch a so-called significant other or relationship if they felt it was going to set a certain image with their friends. You know what I mean? Because to them, it's like, if I don't have this certain image the way I want it to be, then what's the point? You know, I don't want everybody knowing I'm pretty much a fucked up individual. You know, like, I know we didn't curse this whole show, but yeah, that's how they're going to look at it. And as far as social media, it's so easy to go make any kind of profile. And I mean, social media itself is a fantasized life. You know what I mean? It's nothing real about it. People quick to post what they're doing, how much they're on vacation. Look where I'm at. Look at the view. Look at what I'm eating. Look where we're eating at. But how many times do you see people post what they're really going through, the fucked up times? My car just broke down. I'm on the side of the road. I just got fired. You know, my house about to be in foreclosure. You know, like, they don't post that kind of stuff on social media. So how can you actually say that social media is or something that's real if there's nothing real on it other than the good times? You know what I mean? The good moments and, you know, the fantasy stuff.
Yeah, I talked about that yesterday on my show last night. The show I posted and published is that it's a big problem, because you're right. People will not tell you the hard times. There's only a few. I ain't gonna lie. There are a few people that will let you know their good times and bad times. And I respect those people, because to me, in the world we live in today, that takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage. Even with me, it takes a lot of courage for me to talk about my personal experiences in public. But you see, I don't care, because I'm true to myself. What I'm doing is helping me. You know, by me sharing this, I'm helping myself, but I'm also helping others too, because I care more. Like, when I say this is the network of awareness, it really is a network of awareness that I want people to be aware of what's really going on, opposed to what they're being told. And I know, just like these people on social media, that if they talk about their hard times, that it's going to open up a door for criticism, right?
Right.
And look, I've been gaslighted by multiple platforms that I talked about. I was gaslighted by platforms where they went on Instagram and talk shit about me. I've had people talk shit about me on their podcast shows. And it's kind of like, whatever, you know, I know who I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and I'm not compromising that shit for nobody. But at the same time, when you do put your business out there, like the hard times, you're gonna get an onslaught of criticism, because most people in American society are very unhappy. So they get a lot of pleasure in trying to demonize and slander you and criticize you, because it makes them feel better about themselves. That's how reality TV shows became so big, right? Like Jerry Springer and all that, because you or us, the American public, that's the viewer, that's the observer, we're looking at these people and their problems and being like, oh, my life ain't that bad. Woohoo. Yeah. They're like, I'm doing good. Man, money is, homeboy is real fucked up. You know what I'm saying? He got 3 girls pregnant. He's got to pay 3 different child support checks. Damn, I'm not in that position. He's fucked up in the game. Or a homegirl, you know, is got 3 different baby daddies or whatever, and she's a slut or whatever. And then that girl's like, oh, I'm glad I'm not her. I'm doing way better. And that's how reality TV became really big, because people were comparing the sorrows and the shortcomings of others to their life. And it was making them feel good about who they are, because they're like, damn, I don't have it that bad. That person is way more fucked up than I am. And it makes them feel good about themselves.
I agree with that. And I want to share this one little quote. My lady friend, who I was cool with for some time now, we, recently started talking, and she gave me some wisdom words. And she's like, and went like, hurt people hurt people. And it took me a while to grasp what she was saying. But once I got it, I got it. You know what I mean? Like, people who get hurt have a tendency to want to share that hurt to someone else. So like, I even seen this in, the woman I was talking to, like, she got hurt a lot because about her weight, you know what I mean? So it got to a point where I remember when we was out to eat, she made a comment about the waiter. Oh, look at her eyebrows. I said, you shouldn't do that to people. Like that's not something you should be doing. Like, you never want to tear somebody down because to make you feel better about yourself. You know what I mean? You have to be content and you have to love yourself for who you are. Love starts within before it starts anywhere else. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was definitely some words of wisdom my friend gave me. A lot of hurt people have a tendency to pass that same energy on to somebody else, and sometimes it's a negative mindset. You know what I mean? It's definitely nothing good is going to come from it. And like, it goes into right what you were saying. People love to mock other people and tear down the next person when their life is not so perfect either. You know what I mean? If anything, we should be trying to build each other up, not tear each other down. But in this society, this society had to be destroyed. That's why I also say that hood mentality, people who like, oh, I'm from this hood, I did this. Man, that hood mentality shit gotta be destroyed, because that hood mentality is destroyed more than anything. You know what I mean? People robbing each other, scheming each other, selling, poisoning each other for a few dollars just to get by it's not like you're making a substantial amount of money where you're going to be good for years, but you barely making enough to get out through the week. You know what I mean? So why go through all this negative shit just to make a short change and mess up somebody else's life? You know what I mean? And I'm a big believer that hood life got to be gone. There's nothing wrong. See, to me, it's nothing wrong with having a culture in your own style. But when you're destroying people and you're using negative things, and that's what the powers to be like. That's why they promote hip hop and rap and trap so hard now. You know what I mean? They like that image because it's self-destroying. It's self-destruction in its own way. I remember when, I was in high school, hip hop rappers used to rap about being the drug dealer. Now we're in an age where, no, we got to be the users now. Forget selling the drugs. We got to use their drugs.
Yeah, man.
And it's self-destroying and everything. You know what I mean? So at a certain point, you have to look at it like, is it worth keeping around? And it's not. There's nothing wrong with hip hop itself, but what it stands for, what's being pushed as an agenda, it got to be destroyed. They got it before anything good is going to come. This society has to fall before anything positive be start. Because I hear a lot of these pro-black people, and then I don't mean no disrespect towards anybody, but they're quick to want to blame the white man. You know what I mean? But you got to ask yourself why we're put in this position. It's not the white man's fault if you want to blame the so-called white. And I'm not for all that shit. I'll say that now. I'm not for all that. I look for the problem and the solution. The problem started with us. You know what I mean? And we broke a covenant with the Most High. I'm not going to get too depth with it, but we have to come back to where we had our problems and find a solution. And you can't build a kingdom in another man's kingdom. That's not going to work either. You know what I mean? So, they tried that with Black Wall Street, and look how that turned out. I'm not trying to sound facetious or, sound rude when I'm saying that, but that didn't end out too good. So in order for us to get ourselves together and actually come together, you have to look at where the problem started in the first place. And it's problem didn't start with no other culture or other race. It started within us. You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest problem in Western society itself. People don't know how to find the problem, identify the problem, and then come up with a solution. You have to take accountability first on what you did wrong before you can find a solution. The solution is not tearing down somebody else and then, I feel good about my problems now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're still going to have your problems. But yeah, I didn't mean to digress on that.
No, but you hit the nail on the head about people not wanting to take accountability or responsibility. And that is narcissism 101. A narcissist doesn't really start exhibiting their narcissistic behavior in the relationship dynamic until there is some type of an accountability or responsibility on their part. Once there is some form of responsibility, now the narcissist is in full-blown narcissistic mode where they're going to try to tear you down. And if you look at society, we have a society that doesn't want to be held accountable for their actions. They rather criticize and play the blame game. I see that a lot in my daughter's generation. My daughter is 20. And in that generation of like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, these kids, these young adults, they really don't want to accept accountability for anything in their life. They rather just blame somebody else or blame the system for everything that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And yes, the system here in American society is very much broken on purpose by design. We're all being socially conditioned and engineered to something that's self-destructive. Doesn't matter. Even you and I, even though we're not exhibiting a lot of these behaviors or whatever, but we are still being engineered to be self-destructive. Obviously, we're not. That's the battle. That's the spiritual warfare, right? But in actuality, there's a lot of people that are in our age groups that they're very self-destructive at their age. There's people in their 40s that are still very self-destructive because they are believing the illusion that's being fed to them in this American modern day society. And they just rather go with the flow than accept accountability because it's easy to be bad. Let's just call it what it is. It's easy to be a piece of shit. It's easy to be an asshole. It don't take a lot of effort. You could be an asshole very easily. It's not something that's going to require a lot of energy from you. It comes easy. But to be righteous, to have a sense of integrity, to have a high moral compass, to be kind, to be thoughtful, to be humble, to be charitable, that is challenging for most people because it takes a great amount of effort to be like that. And on top of it, it's all effort and actions that are not going to give you a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not going to give you a lot of recognition. You know what I mean? People are not going to be worshiping and praising you for that type of behavior. The Most High is going to appreciate it because that's what the Most High intended you to be anyway. So the Most High is going to love it. Most High is going to be like, that's one of my children that's actually got it right and is doing it the right way. But when it comes to the acceptance of society, they look at that like you're a cornball, like you're whack. Like, oh, look at this one. Oh, want to be humble, all righteous, and trying to always help people, and that fake motherfucker. That type of shit. I mean, I've experienced it heavily. It boggles my mind how you can help somebody in trying to achieve their goals and their passions and give them more love that they're giving themselves, and they still want to look at you like you're the piece of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to interject what you was just saying about accountability. See, and then one thing I realized, it all goes back because nobody knows their role. That's because the roles between woman and man has been so confused to where everybody's trying to do the opposite role what they're here for, And let me ask you this question. You always take a man's word when he say, I give you my word. You would take that seriously more. You don't hear too much when a man say, I'm a man of my word. You never hear women say, I'm a woman of my word so much because woman's not taught. Have you ever heard that? I never heard it, but
I'm pretty sure there's probably been women that said that, but it's not common.
It's not, it's very common, and they actually follow through with it because women in this society is not taught to be held accountable. Men, for the most part, is held to a certain degree and standard. You know what I mean? In today's society, when you do a crime and you get caught and pulled over by the police as a man, you already know I'm going to have to be held accountable for this shit. Most women, and there's exceptions, absolutely, but most women will start crying their way out the whole situation to the officer before he even get to the door and most likely get out from the crime. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. The powers that be knows that men, for the most part, are held to a certain accountability and will be held responsible more than a woman would be. You know what I mean? And we're taught to take, let me rephrase that. Majority of us men, far from males, are taught to be responsible for our actions in this world. Because and my peers told me that at a young age too. My friends, family, watch what you do because, for one, you're a black man. Two, nobody's going to give a shit why you did it. If you do it, just own up to it and get it over with. You know what I mean? If you got to do time, do it as a man. You know what I mean? And that's and even when you go to court, I feel like a lot of women, they get off easy because they're a woman. You know what I mean? So this society that we're in caters more to the woman than anything. So when I see a homeless woman, and I mean, there's various reasons why people are homeless, but why a woman should be homeless, I don't understand that, because like there's so many different outlets and avenues for a woman to go ahead to get resources to support herself and have a roof over her head or somewhere she could stay at than there is for a man. You know what I mean? I heard different scenarios where even a homeless shelter, they'll take a woman and kid in before they would take a man. You know what I mean? Sometimes, and not that they don't take men, but they're quicker to take a woman and a kid in over a man. You know what I mean? So I always question when you have to be a total fuck up in order to be a woman and be holding up a sign. Like there is some people out there who just pretty much went over the deep end, you know what I mean? And just going through, but at a certain point you have to really look and observe your life or why you at where you're at now, like holding a sign, you know what I mean? And that all plays in a part of accountability. And then I know one thing with the modern day women, they cannot stand being held accountable for their actions. That's like a vampire looking into the sunlight for them.
It's a good analogy. It's like death. It's like death to them. It's like death. Exactly.
But I didn't mean to digress on that. I just want to, because you hit some key points that bring that out for me.
Well, I think that we covered a lot. We're about little over 11 minutes over the hour on this segment. And this is something that, like I said, this is a series. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we're going to be discussing probably throughout the rest of this year for 2022. And then, of course, for 2023, I'm going to let it go. But I want to give people a great opportunity to get education on this because a lot of people are experiencing this with these types of people, whether it be in the work environment, family, friends, personal relationships, lovers, marriages, boyfriends, girlfriends. I mean, people are experiencing this on so many different levels and so many different relationship dynamics that I think it's important for them to be aware of this because it could possibly save their life. I feel like when you're dealing with a narcissist, it's a life and death situation spiritually because so many people, they get caught up in these relationships. They get so far deep into it, they lose their identity. They lose the sense of self. And once I realized that, I was like, I got to make my contribution as a messenger for this. I feel very compelled in my spirit to want to help people to realize like, hey, you might be dealing with a narcissist. And if you are, these are the signs. These are the things to be aware of. And most importantly, get out. Like the movie Get Out. Get out. Go. Get out. Get out. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, get the hell out. Because if not, you are going to suffer tremendous heartache, tremendous emotional pain, tremendous spiritual pain. You are going to experience a pain that you never even thought was possible before. And more importantly, you're going to start losing yourself to the point where you don't even recognize the person that you're looking at in the mirror. And something Dr. Ramadi said is that most people that engage in these types of relationships, they last for 5 to 10 or 15 years. They become a shell of what they once was. And I can see that. I can see that because in my personal experiences dealing with narcissists, you start questioning yourself to the point where you start asking yourself, like, is there something wrong with me? Am I the one going crazy here? Am I hallucinating? Am I paranoid? And it's like, hell no, you're not. You're just dealing with somebody that's making you believe that bullshit. They're gaslighting you into that frame of thinking.
Absolutely.
And you and I did the show on gaslighting. We killed it, So, I mean, and that's something we're going to talk about more, gaslighting, because it's a major contributor to the way the narcissist moves and behaves in order to get what they want. So I think we covered a lot in regards to narcissism. With that being said, is there any last final statement that you would like to share for those that are listening to pay heed to?
I would say this, and I probably should have said it in the beginning, but this might be the perfect moment. You got to be cautious about people who come in your life moving quickly. You know, like you find yourself, you move at your own pace, because this is my experience and what I went through. And one of the things I realized was, you know, when you see somebody who's trying to push for something, a relationship, or get you to feel a certain way, and it seems like it's happening too quickly, you have to really diagnose that and say, hey, look, and I told this person, hey, I got some goals. I like you, but let me do what I got to do for me first. And that's, as a man, I'll be a hypocrite. And I told this person that. I told her about my shows. I said, I'll be a hypocrite to get myself in a relationship and not have my career going first. You know, because as a man, I really believe that. So I have to be the prime example of practice what I preach. You know what I mean? So I felt like this person, she was all with it in the beginning, but soon as she actually saw it happening, that's when she got threatened and decided to back out. But I had to look at the whole key factor. I said, you know, I felt from the beginning this person was trying to push me into a relationship, push me, like we was having a little slick comments, she would say, having a little back and forths, and it was all over because she couldn't get her way right then and there. But it made me think, you just have to be cautious about people who come in your life and who's moving too quickly, rather if you want them to or not. You know, there's nothing wrong with taking your time. And I think I told that same person that I want to take my time and see who you really are. You know, why we're in a rush. Everybody's in a rush for what? You know what I mean? Like, if you want something to last for everlasting, why not take your time to get to that everlasting love? You know what I mean? So at least that's what I'm a firm believer of. I'm done with the whole rushing shit, because you rush into a relationship, you be rushing right out that shit within a couple of months. But yeah, just be cautious and cognizant of people who come in who seem like they're quickly trying to get something out of you. Figure out what they want from you and what they're about, and take your time. Don't let them rush you. You know what I mean?
Very well said, brother. Very well said. And I agree. And I'm going to piggyback on that to end the segment, is that people be careful when dealing with people that do want to rush, because usually it's the narcissist that wants to rush the relationship. And a lot of times they'll want to rush into sex. They'll want to rush into moving in with each other. They'll want to rush into pretty much anything that they could possibly rush their way into, because the faster they get you to compromise yourself in rushing into that particular situation that they want, the more control they're going to have over you into feeding the energy supply that they so much desire, because they're not really desiring you as the individual. They're really desiring how they can manipulate and control you. That's the excitement. It's not getting you to love them. It's getting you to love them so they can manipulate you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aksakad, I want to thank you for joining me on the second part to the Narcissism series. I think you touched on a lot of great points. I'm looking forward to having you come back on the show. I'm looking forward to being on the Alpha Talk series and 101 with Aksakad with you. I know you got a lot of things that you're getting and putting in order. So we're going to be doing some big things. And as many of you know, if you didn't know, Aksakad is part of my network. So he will be part of the Network of Awareness TV. He's going to have his own segments on the TV channel as well. So stay tuned for all that. In the meantime, check out Alpha Talk series on all podcasting platforms. Check out 101 with Aksakad on the Network of Awareness, which is also on all platforms, as well as Spreaker, Apple, Spotify, and the rest of them. So definitely check out Brother Aksakad's information. Download this show and leave a review on any of the platforms, preferably Apple or Podchaser, but you can even leave a review on networkofawareness.com. So I want to say, people, when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because remember, the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is all the information signing out, saying peace, love, and light, and Barakatah, and all praise to to the Heavenly Father, the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. Let's go.
This concludes the Network of Awareness podcast. For more information on the Network of Awareness, please subscribe via email to our website, networkofawareness.com, and follow us on Spreaker.com or any other listening apps you use. For any questions about the NOA, email us at aura@networkofawareness.com. Thank you for listening to one of the fastest growing podcast shows on society and culture in America and abroad. When you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.